A warm welcome to one and all present here on today's seminar on Sabka Vishwas scheme. We have with us our speaker, C. Jatin Christopher sir, and C. Nalin Kumar, and Mr. C. Rajesh Kumar is here to join us. The structure will be like that. First, initially, C. Jatin Christopher sir will take 5 to 6:30. That is on my introduction to nuances of Sabka Vishwas. And later on, after that, a small tea break, and we'll proceed with the panel discussion. So, with this, let's welcome today's speaker, C. Jatin Christopher, with a flower bouquet. Please give a big round of applause. Well-known and very important in our fraternity development. Jatin Christopher is not a new name, but still a brief profile introduction of his is here. Jatin Christopher is a chartered accountant in Bangalore. He's an associate, he's a member from ICAI, is qualified in 1996, and his area of specialization is indirect taxes, which includes customs, central excise, VAT, service tax. He's been teaching faculty in our Bangalore chapter, ICAI, since 1997, and he's a very important resource person for us for all our seminars and conferences. He has authored several educational and research material for institute, and he has been practicing in Bangalore since 2000, and he's also handling advisory and litigation matters involving central and state indirect taxes legislations. The small brief introduction, let's welcome today's speaker. I will just give it to him.
Good evening. Like Kapil mentioned earlier, the timing of this discussion on Sabka Vishwas scheme is very tricky, because the initial thoughts were to have it in September. But in September we have different priorities. So they decided that it should be in early October, but then there are vacations. Chartered accountants' lives are filled with due dates. Throughout the year we have something or the other. So I suppose we just have to go with whatever is the topic and leave it for members to make time. It's very nice that people have taken time on a Saturday evening to come in and attend this discussion. I am very eagerly looking forward to the second session, because I have questions of my own for which I don't have the answers. So I am really filling in some gap till Rajesh arrives. Alright, once he comes in, we will spend more time on the panel discussion than hearing what we have to say about it. I have had a few opportunities to go and speak in members' conferences outside of Bangalore also, but I keep telling them that in Bangalore, when people come in for a discussion on GST, they would have read the law, taken printout of the notifications, the forms, made notes. You see Mr. Niranjan with a book in his hand. So it's really heartening. Everywhere else people show up with 2 mobile phones but no book. GST is something that's that requires us to spend a lot of time understanding. But today we are not going to talk about GST. During the introduction, what was mentioned about being a resource person for GST, I also got carried away with it that this is a topic on GST. This is not a topic on GST. This is a topic on central excise and service tax. People have either thrown those books away, and younger members haven't read it at all. Alright, that's how we come across situations. So let's look at, obviously you understand what the scheme is all about. So we're not going to talk about the scheme itself. We look at what are the issues we will need to understand that may not be jumping out of the pages as we go through this title, which is a mouthful of itself. Sabka Vishwas Legacy Dispute Resolution Scheme 2019. First of all, this scheme is designed for those who have hopeless cases. If you have a good case on your hand, you can just have snacks and go home. Alright? This scheme is for those who have a hopeless case on your hands. You know that you have goofed up and got caught with a show cause notice. You've been agitating this at various levels, hoping that someday something will happen, and it's happened. You understand? So let's keep that in mind. Second aspect is, people told you not to pay tax. Mr. Naveen Kumar told you don't pay tax, it's a good case, but you didn't listen. You said Mr. Naveen Kumar is very adventurous, he will take me to High Court and see me there. So I will pay the tax and then I will fight. This is that variety. I will pay the tax and I will continue to litigate to say that limitation should not have been applied, penalty is not justified, to hedge myself from the exposure of interest. 30% also we saw interest in the earlier tax regime. To hedge myself from the potential downside of the risk of interest, I have continued to litigate. To this group of persons also, this is an opportunity. Why are you even fighting this case? Mr. Naveen told you that you don't have to fight. No, he said pay the tax. You've paid the tax, you're fighting for penalty and interest. This scheme is for such assessees also. What you need to do is make this application and forget about any penalty or relief or interest. So therefore, we need to identify in our minds, do we have cases where we require to consider the scheme? The reason being, this scheme is designed to give absolute waiver of interest and penalty, and of course prosecution also. We go to some of those prosecution matters a little later because it has some far serious consequences. So no interest, no penalty, and of course no prosecution. Do you have cases on hand that you want to consider? First group of applicants will be those who have a hopeless case. You know that you're not going to win and you've been fighting this for your own satisfaction. Another is where you have paid off all the taxes and you have continued to agitate this for penalty and therefore to some extent interest as well. What other groups of persons may find this scheme of interest is this group of applicants which comes under the category of voluntary disclosure. This is something that holds a lot of interest for me. Voluntary disclosure of liability under central excise and service tax. I will give you a few examples you can consider. So this is a case, mind you, you don't have a show cause notice, you don't have a matter in appeal, you don't have anything going on, yet you have decided to consider the scheme. Few examples could be, I am a service provider, I have received advance in April 17. I have issued an invoice in July 17. Because my customer is a trader, if I charge service tax, he won't get credit. So I negotiated with him to pay me GST and I issued a GST invoice. Can you visualize this situation? Advance is in April. Obviously, the point of taxation under the POT rules is whichever is earlier. Alright, service, advance or billing. But you have decided not to pay service tax at that time. But in July, when you actually provided the service and issued this invoice, maybe inadvertently, maybe not so inadvertently, you actually charged GST and went on with it. Please bear in mind, just because we have paid the wrong tax does not mean the right tax is forgotten. Just because we have paid the wrong tax does not mean the right tax is forgotten. 142.11, see, somehow we will find a way to bring GST into the discussion. 142.11 of GST law makes it very clear, if the levy is of service tax, then the time of supply events of section 13 notwithstanding that you don't have to pay GST. So please bear in mind, have you paid GST erroneously? Is one possible use case where you can consider the scheme. You can now go and voluntarily make a disclosure that tax is payable, and therefore without any interest or penalty consequence you can pay this service tax on the advance. Now how will anyone come to know whether I have paid GST correctly or not? Very easy. In your annual returns that you have filed already, or you are hoping another extension will come and you haven't yet filed, in the annual return it is easily possible to identify overlapping transactions. If you see in your annual return and your audit report, there are specific places where transactions of April to June have to be called out. So therefore it's easy for anyone to find out, because there's 5 years to find out the mistakes we made in those 3 months. Alright, so please bear in mind, you need to necessarily go in and discover where you may have paid the wrong tax. Go back and consider whether you want to take the scheme and pay the right tax. Another instance is April to June again of 2017, service tax RCM you have not paid. There is a lot of discussion whether April to June RCM liability of service tax should be paid as service tax or not. There are a lot of people who said, where is the challan, where is the return, how will I pay it, since there is no machinery, therefore I will not, I think the levy has been excused. All these new jurisprudence was invented. So those are possible cases where we can now pay service tax without interest and penalty. So I would encourage you to kindly reflect on the scheme based on your 17, 18, 9 and 9C exercise. Whatever is the outcome of your annual return and audit exercise of GST, please use that inquiry or that audit which you have done, and then see whether there is any arrears of tax that you ought to have paid which you have not yet paid. So we've seen one instance where there is a show cause notice. Alright, so let's look at the scheme as 4 different buckets. One is a show cause, a litigation matter, the show cause notice, or it is in appeal, it's a pending adjudication, or it's already in appeal. The next is a arrears category. Arrears category is where 3 instances, the appeal is time barred. Their order is passed, but you haven't filed an appeal within time, so therefore that order has attained finality. Alright? Second instance is where you have not filed any appeal at all. You have let it become final. Third instance is where you have admitted some liability in your returns and said that you haven't paid it, but the returns are already been filed. So please identify. One is a litigation case, whether show cause notice or an adjudication or appellate order is passed. The other is a arrears category where matter has become final. The third is an enquiry. Alright, this enquiry is very tricky. I'll tell you in a little while why. If there is any enquiry and pursuant to that enquiry, the liability has been quantified in some manner. Alright? The liability has been quantified in some manner, then you too can come in. These cases also can be brought up for this scheme. The fourth bucket would be this voluntary disclosure. So you understand obviously what are the 3 categories. In your mind, I would encourage you to sort out all your clients' transactions relating to excise and service tax which is pending into these 4 buckets. Then we will go into examining what happens once you have identified these cases. Things that I want to caution members about is point number 1. I have collected tax and not remitted. I have collected tax, it could be central excise duty or service tax. I have collected it, I have not remitted it, and I am disputing it. There is a show cause notice, it's being defended on various grounds. See, it is a litigation case, I agree, but please bear in mind that you have collected this tax. What is the relief that is available here is 70-50 or 60-40. 60-40 is in the case of arrears. Litigation cases is 70-30. Enquiry is also 70-50. So when you keep this in mind, please identify this declaration is one place we will go for. I'm sure I would like to hear Rajesh and Naveen sir to comment on this. Let us say For 10 years I have collected service tax and not remitted. Do you know anybody like that? There are so many people. Because I am so convinced with my innocence that I think I am not at all in this category. You understand, no? Me? Collect what? So if you have collected tax, please bear in mind, there is, to demand tax, obviously there is a limitation, time limit by when they can issue a show cause notice and attempt to recover this money. But in the case of tax collected and not deposited, there is no time limit. 73 capital A, 11D. So please bear in mind, now in this Sabka Vikas scheme, no Vikas will happen. You will go forward and make a disclosure that, dear sir, under voluntary category, I attended a seminar in the institute. Jatin said that even if you don't have a show cause notice, you can go and opt for this voluntary scheme where complete interest and penalty will be waived. Please bear in mind, this is where I want to caution. Naveen sir, please, you also provide your guidance as far as how this should operate. My fear is, I will furnish information. From the information that I furnish, it will become apparent that I have collected this tax. How? They know how. Even if you don't know how, they will know how. Now when you go forward, I don't think you will get any relief because you have to forcibly fit yourself into one of these four buckets. One of these four buckets, litigation, arrears, enquiry or voluntary. If you go into this voluntary category and you have collected tax for 10 years, now you are, how many years are you going to pay now? Think about it. 10 years you have collected service tax, you are now getting into this voluntary bucket and you are saying I want to pay tax. How many years tax liability are you going to pay? You know about this person who got caught putting his money back into the locker? You heard of that person. When he took it, no one saw him. After that, he had a change of heart. He said, this is not right, I'm going to put this money back. And when he was in that position, they caught him and he had to face all the consequences. Please be very careful. Collected but not deposited, please go take expert advice. Alright? The expert will join us shortly. Alright? When Rajesh comes in, we can ask him what to do because he's really clever with all these things. Please be very careful. If you've collected tax, don't entertain this opportunity blindly. Carefully consider how you will report this under the voluntary bucket and discharge tax. Next aspect to consider. Madam mentioned that we are only focusing on the nuances of the scheme. I am not going to talk to you about sections in this Finance Number 2 Act and take you through those provisions. We look at only the issues. You cannot cherry pick out of one show cause notice issues which you want to go under the scheme. The entire show cause notice needs to go under the scheme. So the concern might be there are 5 issues in this notice. 3 are completely nonsensical. There is no basis on which they can demand tax. So that I am sure it will be dropped at a higher level of appeal. The other 2 is a little bit on shaky ground. I think I want to go in for a scheme. That option, you cannot vivisect one show cause notice and then opt for the scheme for a subset of those transactions. The entire show cause notice has to be taken up and submitted because the idea of the government also is to wrap up all outstanding matters. To me, it sounds like a big letdown because with all the enthusiasm, someone has drafted the show cause notice, opposed your grounds, taken it on appeal. Now you tell them 70% is all bogus. If it is below 50 lakhs. If it is more than 50 lakhs, 50% is all bogus. It's okay. Alright. So I don't know what is the... Anyway, government's plan is what is being implemented. So please be very careful. The entire show cause notice you will need to submit to the scheme. Now you are going to weigh the 3 good points which you have, issues which are there in your favor, 2 bad points which you have against you, but you are going to have to pay 70 or 50% of the entire amount involved in the notice or in the appeal. So please be very careful how you will make this decision. So in that sense, to me, barring these exceptions, when you are advising your clients, going in for the scheme is a commercial decision, not a legal decision at all. It's a simple lekachara. It's a simple calculation you have to make. Does it make sense to pay 50% of the entire show cause notice, regardless of which of those issues raised are meritorious and which are frivolous? You have to pay 50% of the entire amount involved. Does that make commercial sense? I'll give you a few examples also. There is a show cause notice with a demand for 55 crores. Right? Actually, like show cause notice, 55 crores is the amount demanded in the show cause notice, and the period of show cause notice is 10 years. Alright? When you say 10 years, the interest has started even before they issued the show cause notice. Alright? The interest has started long ago. Now the rough calculation is the amount that this person is exposed to is about 200 crores. Now he sees this opportunity to pay some 25-26 crores. On one hand, he has a potential liability of 200 crores and counting, with a probability of say 10%. On the other hand, he has a certainty that if he pays 26 crores, this entire issue will go away. How does he make this decision? Like I mentioned at the very beginning, this notice is for those who have discovered. At the time, they may not have known that they are doing something wrong, but subsequently discovered that they are on the wrong side. You've done something wrong, got caught, notice has come up, you're simply raising new issues, defenses are being advanced to see how you can delay this any further. This is primarily for you. I will also go to say that this is a very wrong message that is going out, but that is my opinion, it doesn't matter. Government's opinion is that they want to make this scheme a big success, to say that those who want to come in and resolve the number of issues that are pending, to pay this abated amount and enjoy complete immunity from any interest, penalty and prosecution. So please consider that the time between now and actual resolution of the dispute, how long do you think it will take if you choose not to go for the scheme? Let's say your matter is before the adjudicating authority. Matter is before the adjudicating authority, and you want to go to at least High Court to get this resolved. Between now and reaching High Court, let's say your demand is 5-10 crore rupees, what is the timeline that you are looking at? I mean, sir? 10 years? More than that. If you are looking at more than 10 years that you will have this issue hanging around, you may want to make a commercial decision what to do, whether you will discharge some tax and get it over with. That is one possibility. Please also bear in mind, government itself has admitted that more than 85% of matters are disposed of in favor of assessee by the tribunal. So the success rate of revenue has been 15%. Alright? So which clearly means a vast majority will not go for the scheme. Isn't it? Vast majority will not go for the scheme. Now the only incentive is the time value. In this interval of time, do you want to continue to hold on to these matters, or do you want to admit? So this depends on what is this 30% that you have to pay, or what is this 50% that you have to pay, whether it is worth it, whether it is not worth it, whether anyway we have engaged Vinayak to go and appear, he is going to break his head, he is going to lose sleep, he is going to do all the drafting. When he sends the bill, the same lines I will give him, Ishtonda. All these things I am going to say. So therefore it may not be such a big concern at all. But please advise clients to make a commercial decision. I've spoken to some friends who say that I've got these few notices which we are representing at various levels. This scheme does not make sense. I would urge you, don't be the judge of that. You don't be the person who makes that decision that it is not worth it. Please educate your clients that here are the two calculations. You have an option to pay 50% and that's the end of this notice. Or don't do anything. You have the privilege of settling my bills periodically and I will take care of the rest. These are the presented to clients, let them make that decision. So please be very careful. Another aspect to call out is there are many units which have received show cause notices under demanding customs duty and central excise duty. There is a EOU which has not fulfilled its obligations, so it has been served a notice demanding customs duty on imported goods at WDV, central excise duty on capital goods procured in DTA without payment of excise duty. Now there is a notice of 10 crores. I don't think it is possible to take such a show cause notice and divide it further into central excise component and customs component and say only on the central excise component we will go in for the scheme. I think this entire show cause notice is out. You cannot go in for the scheme for the reason that it contains customs duty also demanded within it. Another issue to mention is, suppose there is a demand of additional customs duty equivalent to central excise duty. Welcome, sir. Additional customs duty which is equal to central excise duty. Do you think we can claim this scheme for such a notice? Please bear in mind, although additional customs duty is computed at the rates prescribed under Central Excise Act, it is still a customs duty. The other example could be, suppose I am an EOU, I have manufactured goods in the bonded warehouse and I have sold them in DTA. Now there is a valuation dispute or a classification dispute and I have been served a show cause notice in respect of the duty paid on DTA sales by EOU. You got the facts? DTA sales of manufactured goods by EOU, I have received a demand of duty computed under customs law. Now can I go in for the scheme? Certainly I can go in for the scheme because DTA sales of manufactured goods by EOU is under proviso to 3.1. It is in the nature of central excise duty but computed under customs law. So therefore, please appreciate whether you are dealing with a duty which is a customs duty or a central excise duty, regardless of which law it is computed under. Once you identify which are the cases that will qualify, like I mentioned earlier, please educate your clients about this opportunity. It makes sense, it doesn't make sense. I had a client who came back and said, you're saying this scheme, I need to pay 50% and that's the end of this matter. The alternative is, I don't pay anything now, I continue for the next 10 or more years and you are confident that there is a high probability of success. So here is what I am going to do. I mean, I am really taken aback by the way this businessman thought. Makes sense also. He said, I will take this 50%, I will invest in some project or property or some avenue of investment and hold it for 15 years. Alright? If that small probability that I might lose this matter eventually, I have already hedged my bets. But since you are confident that there is a very high likelihood of success, I won't go in for the scheme. I will have this money locked away in an investment that I will not touch for the next 10-15 years. And eventually, once the matter is resolved, I wanted to interject and say, you will give it to me. He said, then I will retain that money for myself. So please let your clients make that decision that they want to go in for the scheme or not. So please don't hold back this information saying that they are completely useless scheme. That may be your opinion, alright? But it does not matter. Please educate your clients that there is this scheme that the government is encouraging, because I haven't come across such a scheme in the past. Not many have been there since I came into practice, but of those that I have seen, whether in direct tax or indirect tax, especially in the state legislations, a rebate being offered on the tax itself. Interest and penalty is waived is not new, but tax itself, rebate of as much as 70%. So those who have very small matters, below 50 lakhs, please make sure that you go in and educate those clients, because 30% might be significantly smaller for them to get rid of this case. What happens if I go in for the scheme? What happens if I go in for the scheme? Neither have you admitted wrongdoing. Companies have this concern whether this will leave a cloud of suspicion about the quality of compliance, statutory compliances. Foreign companies, subsidiaries of foreign companies have sensitivity in so many places. Alright, so it does not amount to admission of wrongdoing. Therefore, for the subsequent period, this issue is not going to come in and affect them at all. Neither does it preclude the government from agitating this issue. Let's say for 16-17 I have gone in and made a voluntary disclosure and discharged some tax. Then for 17-18, for the 3 months, can the department investigate based on my own declaration and say that there should have been a demand for those 3 months? It is possible. So please make sure that such disclosures are not only correct, it is also complete not just in terms of the issues, but in terms of the time period also. All the way up to June 30, 2017, please make sure you have covered all the issues. So if you organize all these issues that come out of the scheme, it gives us some clear direction as to where we need to proceed. First, this scheme benefits primarily 3 categories. 1, defaulters. Alright, we can be true to ourselves, and when we are making this assessment, this scheme is good for defaulters. Second, this scheme is good for those who have already paid off all the tax. They have already paid off all the tax, they continue to agitate only on interest and penalty. It simply does not make any sense to continue this matter, because you are dealing with another issue at various levels. You will need to carry this forward, penalty, pre-deposit and so on. The third is voluntary disclosure. Nobody knew that there was a liability except yourself. Please make sure that you take advantages of the option and going for this option. So this is one from an eligibility point of view. Next aspect that comes in is in terms of the choice, only central excise, only service tax, not clubbed with customs duty. It doesn't work. Third is entire notice has to be taken up and not part of the notice, regardless of your confidence levels. No sir, Calcutta Club has come in just this week, fresh out of the oven, what shall I do? You cannot divide this. The reason is this designated committee, every commissionerate is going to have 2 officers in this designated committee who are going to do a very mechanical calculation. Very mechanical calculation. When it comes to calculation, I will go into a few aspects that you have to be very careful about. They will examine your application and send you an answer. Once they send you an answer, please remember there are 4 buckets: litigation, arrears, enquiry and voluntary disclosure. The notices are already issued, amounts have precipitated, values are all determined. So therefore in arrears and in litigation matters, you will pick the option in the form, online form, which says, do you agree with the calculations that is made by the system? Pick yes. Because what the calculation the system is making is available for you to see. I'll give you an example. What typically happens is a show cause notice is issued, post-audit show cause notice is issued to appropriate the tax you have already paid. They came in for an audit. They identified some taxes payable. They spoke to the assessee. Assessee admitted and discharged the tax, and then the notice followed. The notice is issued. You are wondering, why did they issue notice? I anyway paid the tax. You are eligible for the relief that you discharged the tax before show cause notice, so the proceedings itself are considered to be complete. You are eligible for that relief, but please also bear in mind, to appropriate the tax, they have issued a show cause notice. So when you look at this calculation, please consider 1 crore is the demand, 1 crore tax has been paid. To appropriate this 1 crore, show cause notice has been issued with obviously interest and penalty also is proposed. You are now agitating, saying that whenever I have paid the tax before show cause notice, the proceedings is deemed to have been completed, they need not have issued this show cause notice. If you treat the amount paid before notice as a deposit, we'll take one example. 1 crore 10 lakhs is the total demand. You have paid 1 crore. If you treat 1 crore already paid as a deposit, total tax payable 1 crore 10 lakhs. Alright? 50% of that is 55 lakhs. You have already paid 1 crore, nothing will be given back to you as a refund. But if you consider 1 crore as already prepaid, disputed tax 10 lakhs, 50% payable, 30% payable is now going to be 3 lakhs. So please be very careful how you present this. To this I have a question for the panel again later. If I input the data deceivingly, I can pick a certain field and say I will mislead the system to allow me certain relief. Is it alright? Please bear in mind, if you have picked the buckets correctly, litigation, arrears, enquiry and voluntary, you can give misleading information in these 4 categories but not after this. If you have picked the right bucket, after that the system will flow and determine all the calculations. So please be very careful. Those members who are not very adept with computers, don't even take risk. Alright? Because what I have been told by people who are far younger than me and far more knowledgeable than me is there is a separate portal, that much I know, wherein you have to go in and create this login. This login, your ACES login will work here also. What if it does not work? Forgot password, send to Gmail, what is your pet's name? Please don't do all those things. Give it to someone who understands these things better. You can create a new user, it will validate and throw up a very large jurisdictional directory from where you will need to pick based on your PIN code, which is the designated committee to whom your application needs to be forwarded. So please make sure till there you have identified correctly and made this application. Then all the ARN and the OTP and the PPT and the TTP, all those things will come and somebody who understands these things will take care of it. Please be very careful that after your application has been admitted, the next step, the government, the circular very clearly says 1071 and 1072 both very clearly say that they are not going to wait for December 31st to start taking up your application. Expeditiously they are going to start disposing. When they do something with 5 years on their hands, you know what happens. When they have a very short window of time, you know what else can happen. Please be very careful. You identify the buckets correctly, put in your application and then you can make this, this opportunity to settle your outstanding disputes. Once you identify, see, look at the time limit was very interesting. 120 days the whole issue is going to get resolved. From the time you make this application, in 60 days they will verify. The extent of verification also, it does not seem to be very elaborate. I'll give you a few instances in all 4 categories. Litigation category, show cause notice or appeal having attained finality. The number of the show cause notice, it's all going to get linked and verified. It's not such a extensive database that it knows how to even auto-validate your show cause notice number, etc. Please be very careful, reproduce the entire show cause notice number because I have seen there is a number allotment protocol for all show cause notices, but sometimes there are deviations also because they insert which is the commissionerate code and so on. Show cause notice number, order in original or order in appeal, you will proceed on that basis. So once that data is provided, those files I think will be called for by the designated committee who will validate these numbers and produce the result saying whether the amount you have calculated is correct or not. Form 2 will come out which says this is what you have to pay, do you agree or not. Form 2A is the place where you will provide additional submissions, ask for adjournment, ask for making any, if you dispute the computation that they have made. Most instances I don't expect extensive opportunity to consider the merits of your case. Whatever could be in your calculations, there could be some deviations where there might be a very short window of opportunity. So please bear in mind, the scheme does not allow evidence appreciation opportunity. Nobody is going to be given an opportunity to submit evidence which they need to appreciate and apply their mind. This is not adjudication. This is a dispute resolution. You have decided to come forward. You take your fancy car and go out onto the street, there is an accepted peril. You have accepted that certain things are going to happen. Alright, one coconut will fall, one auto rickshaw will cut you off, all these things you have accepted. So therefore, it's for you to have made those decisions. I am very keen to hear Naveen sir about the judicial review. What is the window for judicial review in this matter? Please stay back for the next session, because that's going to be more interesting, I would think. Once you identify that you have gone for this, there is mechanical clock. 60 days for you to receive this response, 30 days for you to file, to pay the tax, 30 days more for you to get a discharge from this scheme. Where there is a discrepancy, within 30 days a discrepancy will be triggered, so that it was 60, 30, 30 will change to 30, 60, 30, 30. Another 30 to 150 days is the time limit. So please consider that this time will start from the date you submit your application online. So for many, it has started on September 1st. Alright, so the time is already passed. In 30 days, if you don't hear any response, do you think they cannot change this? They also have a time limit. So government is very positive that swiftly they will take action to verify the data which is provided. As regards arrears, please bear in mind, very interesting. Look at the number of, see, July 5th the budget was announced, the scheme was proposed, dates were fixed. The most important date fixed was 30 June 2019. All matters pending on 30 June are going to be considered for the scheme. One of the important disqualifications the government mentioned was where the final hearing has been held before 30th of June. Who knows what is the final hearing? Alright, there are some many senior members here. You will know that final hearings after final hearings keep going on and orders don't get passed. Internal instructions very clearly state they have a time limit for them to pass orders, but orders are not passed. In fact, the circular itself concedes that due to change in the incumbent, Commissioner A was in office, he heard the matter, by the time he could dispose of the matter, Commissioner B came into office. Now obviously Commissioner B can't pass the order where he has not heard. Can you say it was a final hearing? Of course it was a final hearing. You didn't ask for another hearing, they never promised another hearing, nothing was pending, whatever they didn't understand that day itself. Not that they will now not understand if they have another hearing. So please consider it from that point of view. There could be a final hearing. I have heard of instances where final hearing was in January 19, order not passed. Alright, now look at what has happened. I would have liked to see the government issue instructions not to dispass orders. I have heard of a number of instances where orders have been passed 6th of July, 10th of July, 24th of July. When an officer who has to pass an order knows that if I have heard in April, I have heard the matter in April, I have not passed any order, I am already in the beginning of July. If I now pass an order, the hearing which I conducted in April becomes the final hearing and this applicant will get disqualified from the scheme. I am really shocked to see the number of orders passed after 5th July and counting. Alright, there is one relief that I am seeing in this circular, that the second 1072 circular that has come out. I will give you two instances to cover this also. Two instances I will give you. One, I have received an order on 1st of July, not 30th of June. On 1st of July I have received an order, which means the hearing, whenever it was conducted in May or June, will become the final hearing. On 30th of June, it is a matter that is finally heard. In this respect, I will give actually three examples. In this respect, I am disqualified from the scheme. The circular says, 1072 very clearly says, you file an undertaking that you will not file an appeal. And going for the scheme, designated committee will accept your application and give you relief. They are doing something more than what the law permits. Don't object to this. Don't object to this. Alright? No, this is not. Then you become very academic. Don't object to this. The circular says that the designated committee is going to take this also. They could have stopped orders from being passed, but this is an alternative method they have come up with, so please consider this. Second, there is an order passed on 25th of June. 25th of June, time limit to file appeal 60 days plus 30 days. Alright? On 25th of June, is it an arrears? 120C, it says, 121C says arrears means where time limit has lapsed to file appeal. But I still have time, I have 60 days plus 30 days to file appeal. You could make this an arrears case. See, from 25th of June, count 90 days, it is well within December 31st. So you will make this an arrears case and then go in for the scheme in the end of November and you will still qualify for the scheme. So therefore, they have come up with a solution to say that if you make a declaration that you will not prefer an appeal, you can still go in for the scheme. So please don't be disheartened that hastily orders have been passed soon after this budget announcement of 5th of July before 1st of September. So please consider this aspect. The third aspect as far as the enquiry is concerned, everyone, I remember in HMT Bhavan, there is a data exchange between income tax and service tax that has taken place, and income as per P&L account in the IT returns and the income as per ST3 are not matching. Based on that criteria, some 4,000 cases have been identified in Bangalore only. 4,000 cases. Look at it. Income as per P&L and income as per ST3 don't agree. If they do agree, they should send notice. Because point of taxation in service tax is totally different from accrual for income tax or even cash basis for income tax. Anyway, those who deliberately, you trim the toes to fit the shoe, those whose ST3 and books matched, no notice. Those whose information didn't, so therefore where it didn't match, some 4,000 cases, notices were sent. What happened? All of you would have got SOS calls from clients saying, I have received a notice. They just need to get used to it because we are going to get notices every day. Already GST. We are going to get notices every day. Notices we will get under 61 not because we did something wrong. Notices we will get because they didn't understand what we did. Obviously, ST3 is point of taxation, books of accounts is accrual or cash basis. Some of you will even be secretly aware it is a hybrid. Some may even be the author of that. Anyway, we leave that for later. So please look at it. Some 4,000 odd notices have been sent asking for information. Please explain why income tax, income as per P&L account and income as per turnover as per ST3 are not matching. So here goes the response. One response. Dear sir, for the mismatch between turnover as per P&L account and turnover as per ST3, there are several reasons. Reason number one, accrual concept. Reason number two, point of this kind of a very cocky reply I have seen people having filed. Now the officer does not know what is the counter he is supposed to file. So he's marked this under red category. These are people I am going to harass. These people I will call them, make them wait for 4 hours. Another is those people, sir, I know, I knew it. It is only a matter of time. Here is the challan, here is the pay. People have shown up and paid large sums of money as tax. Please bear in mind, is this an inquiry? Is this an inquiry? Because the expression used inquiry, investigation or inspection, and the definition goes on to talk about summons, investigation and letter. Letters they write like nobody's business. Or which letter is a letter of inquiry? Which letter is a letter seeking information? Please provide details of your address. By the way, please also provide the latest balance sheet. All sorts of letters have been written, so please don't be anxious that you have got a letter and in that letter they have not quantified, therefore you are not eligible, you are eligible. You are eligible not under the inquiry category, you are eligible under the voluntary category. If you really believe that Kattila, if you not paid tax and you have got this letter, please be very careful. Don't think you are disqualified from the scheme. You are eligible for the scheme under the voluntary category. Please be very careful. While returning the money, there was a person who got caught. You need to know how to put it back. Please please advise your clients carefully how to make this disclosure. So inquiry has to be done very, very carefully. It is not an audit. It is not a information seeking exercise. It has to be a proper inquiry. There are instances where I heard the difference between turnover as per ST3 and turnover as per P&L account was 647 crores. So this officer thought clear case, demand, high priority case, immediate. So he personally visited this assessee to find out what is going on. Turns out it's a bank. 647.5 crores is interest income. 50 lakhs is some locker rental and those kinds of things on which he has paid service tax, reported that. So therefore, obviously, he is actually, there will be a glaring difference in the turnover, but there is no revenue that is lost here. So anyway, they are looking at a three-dimensional object in two dimensions. They don't know how to visualize the difference. So please bear in mind, if you think it's an inquiry, please make sure it is actually an inquiry. 9 out of 10 times it's not an inquiry. Alright, don't be perplexed. The circular also very clearly says, you please submit these cases also. We will tell you if that letter was an inquiry. Please submit this information and we will tell you if it was an inquiry or not an inquiry. Inquiry where amount is quantified, you are an inquiry case. Inquiry where amount is not quantified, you are a disqualified case. You are not eligible for the scheme. Merely because you have received a letter does not mean it's an inquiry. The fourth category is this voluntary disclosure. In this voluntary disclosure, please be very careful. I think it is a wonderful opportunity. People are asking, now we have discount illa. We got used to this. 70% of it is an opportunity for you to set right your errors, pay the full tax, credit the illa. You can't do all this. You can't. Alright, you have to settle this, discharge the tax, no interest, no penalty. That itself is good enough for us to do this, because it's not like there is still a probability that it may not come to light. It can very well come to light. As an auditor, you yourself will disclose this in 9C. Alright, so please make sure this voluntary disclosure option is very carefully considered and utilized. Tax collected but not paid, very, very dangerous. I would like to see that this voluntary bucket is the one that yields the greatest revenue. Voluntary bucket is the one that yields the greatest revenue in this scheme, because of the in GST discussions we have come across scores of instances that we have been completely oblivious that transactions were taxable. We haven't paid any tax on these transactions. The negatives here, if you have this pre-deposit part, we will need to look at. Please bear in mind, pre-deposit is not just the 7.5% or 10%. Pre-deposit is point number one, any amount that you have paid towards this liability before, during adjudication or subsequent to adjudication to hedge your interest exposure. If you made deposits, it is also considered a pre-deposit. There are two places where it is mentioned to identify what this is pre-deposit. Another aspect is, if you have made pre-deposit by debiting your credit ledger, that is also considered a pre-deposit. Please go back and verify. Now someone must be thinking, which payment shall I appropriate towards? I know. Alright. So you can still do that, I'm saying. You can still do that. The question that comes up is, how do we provide evidence that I have debited this towards deposit? You will need to submit documentation. This is the aspect that will be called for in verification in terms of what do you claim the amount paid as a deposit as far as this scheme is concerned. So when you have made any deposits, pre-deposits, deposits to adjust the liability, all those will be considered. Now if you look at litigation category, the deposits are very clear. What are the deposits made? As regards arrears category, admitted net liability. Now in arrears category, out of the arrears, the tax relief will flow. 70, 50, 60, 40 will flow based on the arrears amount. In the arrears, you cannot say before deposit I will consider. Please identify whether you are in the litigation bucket or in the arrears bucket. This, the software itself, I thought it looks very interesting. Only when you click that relevant option, that table opens up with the relevant fields. Otherwise, we will click all options, and that's why we keep getting those alerts. Alert in the mobile phone. So please click the right option, then you will know which ones are actually available for you. Once you identify what is a deposit, what is not a deposit, please make sure that you have checked this thoroughly once before you actually upload the forms. As far as the forms itself are concerned, very quickly we will need to identify. It is completely online, no face-to-face interaction. Please don't encourage any face-to-face interaction. Anything that needs to be explained, file through the portal, written submissions, whatever they admit. We discussed in the second half what happens when they reject. I want to hear Naveen sir and Rajesh on their views about what happens when they reject. That may be of a lot of interest to members here. So please bear in mind, once this form flows through, that's the end of this matter. Neither is this matter going to prevent the department from investigating this further, nor is this matter going to prevent the assessee from being looked at with a cloud of suspicion in the future. So please bear in mind, when you make this declaration, please don't encourage any face-to-face interaction. PCC has made this very clear. Members need to make this very clear. Don't encourage. I want to call out a few more issues here. One is disposals after 5th July is in very bad faith. That is one point. Another aspect is, have you noticed show cause notices dated after 20th of June? Show cause notice dated after 20th of June, served on the assessee after 5th of July. If you have any customers, clients walking into your office with a file like that, please be very careful. I find something highly suspicious. Show cause notice was issued in the last 2 weeks of June, was served on the assessee after 5th of July. Why? If the show cause notice is dated 20th of June, within 25th it would have been served. Why was it served later? Please investigate before accepting these engagements, because I have heard of, I want to believe it is a rumor, that there have been instances where show cause notices were arranged so that there is a show cause notice pending on 30th of June and you can go in and get 70% relief or 50% relief under the arrears category. If you have someone simply bringing a file to you with this kind of a fact pattern, don't be very naive about it. Please be very careful when you accept these engagements. What are the issues involved? So if you look at how the system itself flows, the reason why we will need to entertain this is because it is an opportunity I don't think may come again. Even if the results of this are not encouraging, another opportunity like this may not come. So definitely assessees need to take full advantage of this. Next aspect is, I certainly find this voluntary disclosure to be an attraction for me to identify whether there are areas where taxes ought to have been paid but have not been paid. The third instance is the completely faceless form of interaction to file and get this relief. If there are questions, we could take a few questions, but I think those questions will only be for me to make note of and actually put it to the panel to discuss. But if you see from an overall assessment point of view, keep this scheme as one of the priority items to educate all your clients. If I were to now proceed to see what are my next steps, clearly listing of all the matters that are pending. Next, listing of all the clients where I have now discovered during GST audit and review that some old taxes have been left unpaid. Identify these and notify all clients about the scheme. Any of the flyers available can be shared. Institute has made available a lot of material. You yourself can prepare some flyers and circulate to clients. Client specific calculation of what is the relief. I saw one calculation someone had prepared. Total tax liability 1 crore 17 lakhs, interest to date 98 lakhs, interest after 5 years 2 crores. So if you pay today, you will pay 58 lakhs. If you pay after 5 years, you will pay 4.5 crores. This calculation was presented to client to say, take a look at this and make a decision whether you want to go in for the scheme or not. Please consider this an opportunity to spread this information among clients to make sure they take advantage of the opportunity. If you feel that you don't have too many clients where there are litigation going on, this voluntary bucket is also of interest to you. Please consider whether you know there are unpaid taxes. Make sure that those are also reported, notified to clients. As soon as a decision is made, quickly file this online. Few pointers that I've learned from my friends is you need to provide a mail ID, phone number. From GST we have learned, don't give the managing director's mail ID and phone number because he will not open his mailbox. Correct? That is why you did not even know that a notice was issued under 46, order was passed under 62, matter has become final now. So please be very careful. The communication should be swiftly done to make sure you get all that information. You file form number 1, you respond with form number 2. If there are any changes, then you get form 2A where you make a revision. If you admit that, discharge will be issued within 30 days. 120 days, I think, is a very quick duration of time. The scheme closes December 31st. The scheme closes on December 31st. After that, we cannot make any new submissions. If we have already made a submission and got this ARN number, after that they can take any amount of time. Although there is a time limit, we'll ask Naveen sir to guide us on what happens if they delay beyond the time that is permitted. Look at it from this point of view. What are you going to tell them? Sir, you have given it to me. You're supposed to get back to me in 60 days. You have got back to me in 70 days. So I don't want your scheme. Are you going to say that? So therefore, please look at it from that point of view where you have the greatest advantage. I would like to look at a few areas of caution. One, when I submit, what enquiry do you think they can do? Don't simply file and wait for something to come out of your computer. Please take it to the next step. If you are the member officer in the department and you receive this file, what would you look for? Look for those things. Alright? Voluntary disclosure, what can they verify? What do you mean you're disclosing 1 crore of liability voluntary? Please give me books of accounts. Please get the chartered accountant certificate. Please bring the chartered accountant also. I want to talk to him. They cannot do those things. Voluntary disclosure is a fake account. Whatever you disclose will be accepted under voluntary disclosure. So what we need to do is to make sure that it is complete. It is complete for the period up to 30th of June. We cannot carry this forward and say it is not whatever I have disclosed, that much alone I will discharge. I am not going to do anything else. So please be very careful. I would encourage you to visualize what is the next step after you have filed this form that the government is going to verify. Very little by way of verification. So therefore I would want to fill this form in Excel on my own. Look at how the net value is computed. Verify this on my own before I upload this onto a system. The system, I am told, is very simple, very elegant, nothing very fancy. Basic data is what it calls for. If you identify period for which you have voluntarily making a disclosure, for every period please make a separate disclosure. There's no reason why we should ask for multiple application, but anyway that is what is being instructed in the circular. We talk about that in the next session also because it is of interest. So please look at every show cause notice. No vivisecting a show cause notice. No selecting 2 show cause notices just because you have, let's say there is 2 show cause notice, 1 order in appeal. How will you proceed? The minimum that you have to proceed with is a show cause notice. So please use every show cause notice and identify how you need to proceed. Show cause notice is a different document, SOD is a different document. Although the issues are same, show cause notice is separate. Statement of demand for the subsequent period on the same issue is also a separate application which you will need to file. So please be very careful. Certainly I believe this is a wonderful opportunity. We should consider this particularly to set right errors. Alright, before I wrap up, we'll take a short break and come back. I want to allow more time for panel discussion so that these questions can come up and we hear multiple perspectives. This is a scheme that is for defaulters. This is a scheme for those who have paid off all the taxes and still dealing with a dispute on their hands. This is a scheme for those who know there are some liabilities that no one knows about. Alright, please take advantage of this, and I hope you will find this a wonderful experience and bring you a lot of success. Thank you very much. Let's have a break and terminate.